Better to act now while my health is good and there can be no question of my mental capacity. S is getting bolder with her questions about the business. Must protect what I have built for my son. Reading his words, I realized my father had known far more than he let on, had been several steps ahead of Sandra from the beginning. Even as his health failed him, his mind had remained sharp-focused on safeguarding his legacy. The company itself needed healing too. Now, 5 years after cutting contact, they suddenly want to meet my 6-year-old daughter. While I tell you how my family reunion turned into the most shocking confrontation of my life, let me know where you are watching from, and hit that subscribe button if you have ever had to stand up for yourself against your own family. I am James, 35 years old, and I live in Portland with my daughter Lindsay. We have a comfortable life now, but the road here was anything but easy. My story begins in that middle-class home in Michigan, where I grew up with my brother Trevor, who is 4 years older than me. Our house was a modest 2-story colonial on Maple Street. Dad Harold worked his way up to management at a regional insurance company. He was always reserved, the kind of father who showed up to events, but rarely expressed emotions. Mom Diana taught 3rd grade at the local elementary school. She was more expressive, but had clear favorites, which became apparent early on. Trevor was the firstborn, the athlete, the one with the charismatic smile and confident attitude. I was quieter, more thoughtful, with an interest in photography and writing that my parents viewed as impractical hobbies rather than potential careers. The first signs that our family operated on a tilted playing field appeared during simple family decisions. When planning summer vacations, we always went to baseball tournaments in cities where Trevor was competing, never to the photography camp I dreamed of attending. Dinner choices consistently favored Trevor's preferences for burgers and steaks over my requests for Italian or Chinese food. Birthday and Christmas celebrations made the disparity even more obvious. On his 16th birthday, Trevor received a brand new mountain bike and expensive sports equipment. When my 16th birthday came around 2 years later, I got practical gifts: clothes for school, a backpack, and a $50 gift card. Mom would say Trevor needs more equipment for his sports. They are expensive, and he could get a scholarship. Mom acted as Trevor's personal defender. If we argued over the remote control, or whose turn it was to use the family computer, she would intervene. "James, let your brother have it. He has a big game tomorrow and needs to relax." Dad rarely stepped in, preferring to stay out of conflicts entirely. His silence felt like tacit approval of the favoritism. I still remember when I won first place in the state writing competition in 10th grade. I came home excited to share the news, only to find my parents focused entirely on Trevor's upcoming football game. Mom glanced at my certificate and said, "That is nice, honey," before returning to ironing Trevor's jersey. No celebration dinner, no congratulatory phone calls to relatives like when Trevor scored the winning touchdown the previous week. As we entered our teenage years, the pattern solidified. Trevor was encouraged to join every sports team, with my parents attending every game, cheering loudly from the stands. I developed my own interests without their encouragement, joining the school newspaper and photography club, where I found my voice and passion. By 15, I started working at the local grocery store after school and on weekends. I needed money for camera equipment and to save for college, understanding somehow that I would be more on my own than Trevor. My parents seemed to view my independence as a personality trait rather than a necessity born from their neglect. The most glaring example of the double standard came during our senior years of high school. Trevor received a used but reliable Ford Mustang for his graduation. When I mentioned a car during my senior year, Dad said plainly, "You need to save up for your own car, James. It builds character." The message was clear. Trevor deserved things. I needed to earn them. While Trevor went to parties and games, I worked extra shifts at the grocery store and later at a local restaurant. I developed a love for photography, saving penny by penny for a decent DSLR camera that I bought secondhand. When I showed my parents the photos I had taken for the school yearbook, Dad nodded with mild interest, while Mom barely looked up from preparing Trevor's favorite meal before his big date. Thankfully, I found support elsewhere. My best friend Anthony and his family often invited me for dinners. His parents would actually ask about my photography and writing, showing genuine interest in my ambitions. My English teacher, Mrs. Patterson, became a mentor who encouraged me to apply for journalism scholarships. These connections helped me develop a sense of self-worth that my family never fostered. By the time senior year ended, I had saved nearly $4,000 toward college through countless hours of work. I knew it would not be enough, but it was a start. What I did not know then was how the disparity in our family would continue to widen, creating a chasm that would eventually become unbridgeable. The college decision process revealed just how differently my parents viewed their two sons. Trevor was accepted to Westlake University, a prestigious private school known for its business program and hefty tuition of $45,000 per year. Without hesitation, my parents agreed to cover his expenses, taking out a second mortgage on our home. When my acceptance letter from State University arrived with a partial scholarship that would cover about half of the $20,000 annual cost, I expected similar support. Instead, I received congratulations, followed by paperwork for student loans. "Why are you covering all of Trevor's expenses, but making me take out loans?" I asked during a tense dinner conversation. Mom sighed, as if I was being difficult. "Trevor is pursuing business, James. He has real potential to make something of himself. That school has connections that will set him up for life, and journalism does not have value," I challenged. Dad cleared his throat uncomfortably. "It is not about value, son. It is about investment. Trevor has a clear path to success. Your interest in photography and writing is, well, it is a tougher field." Diana nodded in agreement. Trevor has always had entrepreneurial spirit. Investing in his education is investing in the future of this family. He will take care of all of us someday. I swallowed the bitter pill of their explanation and applied for student loans. What choice did I have? I was determined to get my education despite their lack of support. My college experience was vastly different from Trevor's. While he lived in a modern dorm with a meal plan that covered 3 meals a day, I rented a cramped apartment with 3 roommates in a building that should have been condemned years earlier. Our kitchen consisted of a mini fridge, a microwave, and a hot plate. The bathroom we shared frequently had plumbing issues that our negligent landlord rarely addressed properly. I worked 20 hours a week at a coffee shop near campus and another 15 hours on weekends at a local newspaper doing administrative work, hoping it might lead to writing opportunities. Between classes work and basic survival, I averaged about 5 hours of sleep per night. Meanwhile, Trevor's social media was filled with photos from fraternity parties, spring break trips to Cancun, and a semester abroad in Barcelona that my parents funded as an essential business experience. He drove a newer car than the one he had in high school, courtesy of our parents, who believed he needed reliable transportation for internship opportunities. One particularly difficult moment came during my sophomore year when the university newspaper offered me an unpaid internship that would have given me crucial experience and portfolio pieces. I had to decline because I simply could not afford to give up any paid work hours. When I mentioned this to my parents during a rare phone call, hoping they might offer even a small amount of help, Mom said, "Well, maybe you should have chosen a more practical major like your brother." Alex became my rock during those challenging years. We met in journalism ethics class and quickly bonded over our shared love of documentary photography. Unlike many of my classmates who came from wealthy backgrounds, Alex was also working his way through college, though, with more family support than I received. "Your parents are something else, man," Alex said after I told him about Trevor's new car. "No offense, but the way they treat you two is messed up." I shrugged, trying to appear less affected than I truly was. "I will make it on my own. Maybe it is better this way. I will appreciate everything more." That is a healthy attitude, but it does not make what they are doing right, he insisted. By our junior year, Trevor had graduated and immediately began talking about starting his own tech company. He had majored in business, but took a few coding classes and believed he had the next big app idea. I only heard details secondhand through occasional calls with Mom, who spoke about Trevor's plans with reverent excitement. Then came the news that changed everything. During the first semester of my senior year, Mom called her voice brimming with pride. Trevor has presented his business plan to us, and it is brilliant, she gushed. We are going to help him get started. That is great, I said cautiously. What kind of help are you giving him? Well, she hesitated slightly. We are investing in his company. He needs startup capital, and we believe in him. Later that week, Dad reluctantly shared that they had withdrawn $150,000 from their retirement accounts and taken a second mortgage on the house. They had essentially bet their entire financial future on Trevor's business acumen. Have you thought this through? I asked, genuinely concerned. That is all of your retirement savings. Do not worry about us, Dad said dismissively. Trevor has done his homework. The return on investment will be worth it. When I expressed further concern, suggesting they at least consult with a financial advisor, Mom became defensive. You have always been jealous of your brother's success, James. Why cannot you be supportive for once I attended the launch party for Trevor's company TechVision during winter break? It was an extravagant affair at an upscale hotel with open bar and catered food that must have cost thousands. Trevor gave a confident speech about revolutionizing mobile shopping experiences, using buzzwords that impressed the crowd, but left me wondering about the substance behind the flash. Meanwhile, I was about to graduate with $50,000 in student loan debt, facing monthly payments of over $500 on an entry-level journalism salary. I had applied for dozens of positions, knowing that breaking into the field would be challenging even with my internship experience and strong portfolio. Not once did my parents offer to help with my debt, even as they continued pouring money into Trevor's company when it faced temporary cash flow issues just 3 months after its grand launch. 18 months after its flashy debut, TechVision collapsed spectacularly. Trevor had burned through all the investment money, including our parents' retirement savings, with nothing to show for it except a half-finished app and mounting debts. The expensive office space, unnecessary business trips, lavish client dinners, and his own generous salary had drained every cent. I received a panicked call from Mom one Tuesday evening. I was working late at the small magazine that had hired me after graduation editing photos for an upcoming issue. James, we need your help, she said, her voice shaking. Trevor's business, it did not work out. We are in trouble. What kind of trouble, I asked, though I already had a sinking feeling. We might lose the house, the bank, and they are threatening foreclosure. I took a deep breath. What about Trevor can not he help? He is devastated, James. He put everything into this business. It is not his fault the market changed, or that his employees did not execute his vision properly. Classic Trevor, I thought. Never responsible for his own failures. I flew back home that weekend, using money I had been saving for a much-needed new camera lens. What I discovered was worse than I had imagined. Not only had my parents lost their retirement savings and were 3 months behind on mortgage payments, but Trevor had been using company funds for personal expenses. He had leased a BMW for business purposes and taken multiple research trips to Las Vegas and Miami. When I confronted everyone at the dining room table, the facade finally cracked. You let him use business money for a luxury car, I asked incredulously. Image is important in business. Trevor defended, sitting there in his designer clothes, while our parents worried about losing their home. No one would take me seriously if I showed up in a budget car. And I suppose the trips to Vegas were also about image, I challenged. Networking is crucial in tech, he shot back. You would not understand because you are in a dead-end field taking pictures for some magazine nobody reads. Mom jumped in. James, please. We did not ask you here to attack your brother. We need your help. What kind of help exactly, I asked, though I already knew the answer. Dad looked uncomfortable as he explained. We know you have been saving for your wedding with Samantha. Sarah, I corrected. My own father could not remember my girlfriend's name. Right, Sarah, he continued without missing a beat. We thought maybe you could loan us $30,000 just until we get back on our feet. It would save the house. I stared at them in disbelief. The $30,000 I have been saving for 3 years while paying off my student loans that you refused to help with. That money we did what we thought was best at the time, Mom said defensively. Trevor's business was a family investment. And I am what? Not family. The words escaped before I could stop them, carrying decades of hurt. Do not be dramatic, Trevor scoffed. This is about helping Mom and Dad, not your perpetual victim complex. Something in me snapped. 26 years of being second best, of working twice as hard for half the recognition, of watching my brother receive endless support while I struggled alone. You know what? No, I said firmly. I will not give you my savings. Not a cent. James. Mom gasped. I have worked for every dollar I have, while you poured money into Trevor's pockets. I warned you about this investment, and you accused me of jealousy. I have $50,000 in student debt because you decided my education was not worth funding, but Trevor's party lifestyle at college was. And now you want my wedding savings. Absolutely not. So you will let your parents lose their home, Trevor challenged. That is cold even for you. Their home is in jeopardy because of you and their poor decisions, not because of me, I responded. And unlike you, I do not have parents as a financial safety net. If I empty my savings now, what happens when I face an emergency? Dad finally spoke up. Son, I understand you are upset, but family helps family. I laughed bitterly. That is rich, coming from you, Dad. When exactly did this family help me? Was it when you made me work through high school while Trevor played sports? Or when you funded his entire education but left me in debt? Or maybe when you invested in his business, but never once offered to help with my student loans? The silence that followed was deafening. For the first time, I saw a flicker of shame cross my father's face. I think it is best if I go, I said, finally standing up. You all have some serious thinking to do about what family really means. If you walk out that door without helping us, Mom said, her voice trembling with emotion, do not bother coming back. I looked at her, the woman who had packed Trevor's lunch with love notes, but forgot my basketball games. I have been on my own for years already. This changes nothing. As I walked out, Trevor called after me. This just proves what I have always said about you. You have never cared about anyone but yourself. I did not look back as I got into my rental car and drove away. That was the last time I spoke to any of them for 5 years. I returned to my life in Seattle, where I was building a career as a photojournalist. I told Sarah what happened, and her support never wavered. You did the right thing, she assured me. You cannot set yourself on fire to keep others warm. 6 months later, Sarah and I married in a small ceremony with our close friends. Alex was my best man. My family's absence was noticeable, but somehow fitting. We started our life together without their blessing or help, which seemed appropriate given our history. A year later, our daughter Lindsay was born, bringing joy I had never imagined possible. Watching her tiny fingers wrap around mine, I made a silent promise that she would never question her worth or feel second best. Life had finally fallen into a beautiful rhythm when tragedy struck without warning. Sarah was driving home from work when a drunk driver ran a red light and hit her car. She died at the scene just 2 weeks after Lindsay's second birthday. Suddenly, I was a widower and single father at 30. The grief was overwhelming, but Lindsay needed me, so I found strength I did not know I possessed. We moved to Portland for a fresh start and to be closer to Sarah's sister, who helped with childcare while I worked. Over the next 3 years, Lindsay and I created our own little family unit. I advanced at a respected nature magazine, eventually becoming their lead photographer. Lindsay grew into a bright, curious child with her mother's smile and creative spirit. Not once during those 5 years did I hear from my parents or Trevor. I occasionally checked social media and learned that Trevor had moved to California to reinvent himself after his business failure. My parents had managed to keep their house somehow, though I suspected they had to delay retirement. Then, 2 weeks ago, a text message arrived from a number I still knew by heart. "James, it is Mom. Your father and I would like to see you and meet our granddaughter. Please." How they learned about Lindsay, I could only guess. Probably through mutual acquaintances on social media. Their timing was suspicious, their intentions unclear. But after 5 years, I found myself wondering if people could change, if relationships could be rebuilt. For Lindsay's sake, I agreed to meet them at a neutral location, a family restaurant, halfway between Portland and their home. I did not tell Lindsay these were her grandparents, only that we were meeting old friends of Daddy's. The restaurant I chose was a casual diner with enough noise to buffer uncomfortable silences, but quiet enough for conversation. I arrived deliberately 5 minutes late, Lindsay's small hand in mine, her curious eyes taking in the surroundings. My parents had aged considerably. Dad's hair had turned completely gray, and deep lines mapped Mom's face. They stood awkwardly when they saw us, uncertainty in their expressions. James' mom whispered, eyes immediately filling with tears at the sight of Lindsay. "Thank you for coming." Dad nodded stiffly, emotion making him even more reticent than usual. "Son." We sat in a booth, Lindsay beside me, coloring on the children's menu while stealing glances at these strangers. "This is Lindsay," I said simply. "Lindsay, these are Harold and Diana." She gave them a shy wave before returning to her coloring. I had not coached her on what to say, wanting this interaction to unfold naturally. "She looks so much like you did at that age," Mom said softly. "But she has her mother's eyes." I nodded, surprised they remembered what Sarah looked like from the few photos I had shared years ago. The conversation started awkwardly. Weather, my job, Portland. They asked about Lindsay's school and interests, and I answered with minimal details protective of the life we had built without them. "Trevor could not make it today," Dad mentioned casually. "He is in California working on a new venture." "Some things never change," I commented, unable to keep the edge from my voice. Mom rushed to smooth over the tension. "He sends his regards. He is very busy these days." We ordered food, and as Lindsay became absorbed in her chicken fingers, the adult conversation turned to more substantial matters. "We have missed so much," Mom said, watching Lindsay with longing. "She is beautiful, James. We would like to be part of her life, part of your lives." After 5 years of silence, I responded. "Why now?" Dad shifted uncomfortably. "We have had a lot of time to think, to regret certain decisions." "We never should have given you that ultimatum," Mom added. "It was wrong." I studied them carefully, noting how Mom's designer handbag had been replaced with a simple purse, how Dad's watch was the same one he had worn for the past decade. "What happened after I left? Financially, I mean." They exchanged glances before Dad spoke. "We managed. Had to postpone retirement. I am still working part-time at the insurance office. We kept the house, but it was close. Did Trevor ever pay you back any of the money?" Another uncomfortable silence. "Trevor has had some challenges," Mom said diplomatically. "He is trying to get back on his feet." The server brought our meals, creating a natural pause in the conversation. As we ate, they asked more questions about Lindsay, their granddaughter, whom they were meeting for the first time at age 6. "We would love to take her to the zoo sometime," Mom suggested. "Or perhaps she could visit for a weekend." That was when I realized they thought they could simply walk back into our lives and pick up as if nothing had happened, as if there were not years of hurt and abandonment between us. "Before we discuss anything like that," I said carefully, setting down my fork, "we need to clear the air about a few things." Lindsay was now playing a game on my phone headphones, blissfully unaware of the tension at the table. I need to understand something, I continued. Are you still supporting Trevor financially? Mom's gaze dropped to her plate. Dad's jaw tightened. We help him occasionally, he admitted. Just until he gets this new business off the ground. So nothing has changed, I said, more a statement than a question. You are retired on a limited income and still funneling money to Trevor, while you never once offered to help me with my student loans or reached out after Sarah died. That is not fair. James' mom protested weakly. Isn't it? I felt a calm clarity I had never experienced before. Let me tell you what is not fair. It was not fair that you funded Trevor's education, but left me with $50,000 in debt. It was not fair that you invested your retirement in his business, but could not remember my girlfriend's name. It was not fair that when I lost my wife and became a single father, neither of you even called to see if we were okay. Dad cleared his throat. Son, we made mistakes. We are trying to make amends now. Are you? Or did Trevor recently ask for a larger sum than you can provide, so you thought of your other son who has managed to build a successful life despite your neglect? The shock on their faces told me I had hit close to the mark. What might surprise you, I continued, my voice steady, is that despite working full-time and raising Lindsay alone, I paid off my student loans last year. I bought a small house in a good school district. I did all of this without a single dollar of help from my family. Mom wiped away tears. James, please. I am not saying this to hurt you. I am saying it because for the first time, I need you to truly hear me. I was your son too. I deserve the same love, support, and investment that Trevor received. The fact that I succeeded anyway does not erase the pain of being treated as less than. Dad, to my surprise, did not defend himself. Instead, he nodded slowly, a gesture of acknowledgement I had never seen from him before. You are right, he said simply. We failed you, James. There is no excuse for it. Mom's tears flowed freely now. We were so focused on Trevor because he always seemed to need more help. You were so capable, so independent. We told ourselves you were fine. I became independent because I had to. I pointed out, not because it was my nature. We see that now, Dad admitted. Too late, I fear. Trevor still asks for money, Mom confessed suddenly. Every month. He says, this new app he is developing will be the big one, but it has been 3 years of the same promises. And you keep giving it to him, I stated. It is hard to say no, she whispered. I managed to say no 5 years ago, I reminded them. It was the healthiest decision I ever made. Lindsay tugged at my sleeve, removing her headphones. Daddy, can I have ice cream? The innocence of her request broke the tension. I smiled at her. Sure, sweetheart. As she happily returned to her game, waiting for dessert, I turned back to my parents. Here is where we stand. Lindsay deserves to know her grandparents, but on my terms. If you want a relationship with her and with me, things need to change. No more enabling Trevor. No more treating me like a backup plan. We start fresh with clear boundaries and equal respect. Dad nodded solemnly. What do you need from us? First, I need you to stop sending money to Trevor. He is 39 years old. Second, I need you to understand that trust takes time to rebuild. We can start with short visits, always with me present. Finally, I need acknowledgement that what happened was not a misunderstanding or a difference of perspective. It was favoritism, and it was wrong. To my surprise, it was Dad who reached across the table and placed his hand over mine. I am sorry, son. Truly sorry. You deserved better from us. Mom nodded through her tears. We were wrong, James. So wrong. Please give us a chance to be the parents and grandparents you both deserve. Lindsay's ice cream arrived momentarily, diverting everyone's attention to her delight over the colorful sprinkles. As she ate, I considered what rebuilding this relationship might look like. I cannot promise anything, I said finally, but I am willing to try for Lindsay's sake and maybe for mine too. The relief on their faces was palpable. We finished the meal with lighter conversation, making tentative plans for them to visit Portland the following month. As we parted in the parking lot, Mom hugged me tightly. "Thank you for not giving up on us entirely," she whispered. "I am not doing it for you," I replied honestly. "I am doing it because holding on to anger takes energy. I would rather spend loving my daughter." Dad shook my hand, then awkwardly pulled me into a hug. "We will do better," he promised. I watched them drive away, feeling neither victorious nor defeated, just different. Perhaps this was what growth felt like, setting boundaries without burning bridges. Over the following months, my parents kept their word. They visited Portland twice, spending time getting to know Lindsay. Dad confirmed they had stopped sending money to Trevor, who was predictably furious. Mom called weekly to check in, respecting my boundaries and never pushing for more than I was ready to give. The healing is slow and imperfect. There are moments when old hurts resurface, when I question whether I made the right decision in letting them back into our lives. But when I see Lindsay giggling as Dad teaches her to fish at the local pond, or watch Mom patiently helping with her art projects, I glimpse what might have been and what still could be. I have learned that forgiveness is not about excusing what happened, but freeing yourself from its power over you. I did not invite my parents back into our lives because they deserved it, but because Lindsay and I deserve peace. The most important lesson in all of this is one I am teaching Lindsay every day. Your worth is not determined by how others treat you, but by how you choose to live with integrity, even when it is difficult. Standing up for yourself is not selfish, it is necessary. Sometimes the hardest boundaries to set are with the people who should have loved you most. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members? Let me know in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe to hear more about our journey. And if you know someone struggling with family dynamics like these, share this video. It might help them find the courage to stand up for themselves too. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember, sometimes the family we create is more important than the family we were born into.